Good evening, everyone. We're going to get this meeting started. It is 5:30. This is a meeting of the Tax Increment Reinvestment Zone Number 1. We are in City Hall, Council Chambers. Today's Tuesday, November 8th, 2022. Calling this meeting order. I want to thank everybody for being here, especially being December mid-month. As disclosure, I do have a hard stop for me at 7:15. So hopefully we are done by then. If not, I've asked Mr. Castillo to help us preside the meeting and continue it with the meeting. Mr. Campos, would you do roll call for us?
Mr. Villas-Somia. Present. Mr. Jose Castillo.
Present.
Mr. Orlando Navarro.
Present.
Mr. Wilfredo Martinez.
Present.
Mr. Jose Ceballos.
Here.
And Ms. Harold Alexander.
Present.
Mr. Chair, you do have a quorum.
Thank you very much for that. Okay, moving on with the agenda. Item 3 is minutes, approval of minutes of November 8th, 2022. You have those in your packets. Let me know if there's any edits or corrections. And if they're not, I'll entertain a motion whenever you're ready.
Mr. Chairman, if there's no corrections, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes.
It's been moved by Mr. Navarro to approve the
Second.
minutes, seconded by Mr. Castillo. Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any against? None, motion passes. We're on to item 4, citizens' comments. Citizens are required to fill out a witness card no later than 5:45 p.m. and can be found here at City Hall, 1110 Houston Street. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per speaker. No more than 3 persons will be allowed to speak on any side of an issue. Speakers may not pass 3 minutes to any other speaker. Comments should be relevant to city business and delivered in a professional manner. No derogatory remarks will be permitted. Anybody here to speak?
We have not received any comment at the moment.
Right, so we still have time up to 5:45, so we'll keep that item open. Moving on to item 5, presentation items. No action to be taken on these items. Item 5 is discussion on any downtown-related effort or activity of board members' interest or concern.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I was sent an article in the San Antonio Report. It's sanantonio.report.org, and it was specifically a report on Laredo and what we're doing in the downtown area. And for the most part, I thought the article represented us well as far as what we're trying to do to change things in the downtown area, but he failed to talk about what this TERS is doing in downtown and the investment that's being made in the downtown area. And, you know, I don't know if there's any way to get to the reporter to give him that kind of information, but definitely if, you know, I wish that we could tell our story and not somebody else tell it for us. And so I don't know if the community development staff could reach out to him, maybe give him some information, because I think it would go a long way to let people know what we're doing to improve our downtown area.
What was the reporter?
Nicholas Frank.
And you can forward that email, that story.
I will.
I'd like to see that.
I can touch bases with Nicholas, and if you all are available to make comments, I certainly can reach out to you all if you're interested.
I'm very.
Ms. Alexander's very interested, okay. Very good note to follow up. Anything else? Okay, moving on to item 6, presentation by the City of Laredo Traffic Department related to anticipated work in the downtown area. Mr. Mia, this is an item that you brought up. Do you want to introduce our guest?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we do have a representative traffic department. They will give you an update what we're doing and what was some of the thinking, because we did find out a lot of those signals are no longer needed. And so, which is a good thing, because I think we get too many signals because the traffic volume is not there. And so they will present you and show some of the idea.
All right, great.
It's just those signal lights gonna be replaced with a stop signal.
I've done this a few times.
So that opens up area for sidewalks and other.
That is what we wanted to do. Yeah, perfect.
And this is a result of a traffic study.
Because we are at a point, most of those controllers are 35, 40-year-old, so we have to replace all those equipment. and which become very expensive. Now we're looking at, we really need all this signal because the traffic is no longer there.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously I haven't seen the presentation, but we would want to take a little, hopefully the department gives us a little bit of time to actually digest the propositions, that we can have a little bit of say on the recommendations, but we'll
Oh,
see.
definitely. This is, we internally, we're discussing, so we're gonna present to you, and any traffic signal, we will final report, we'll present to city council, because
Very good, thank you. Go ahead, sir.
My name is Jimmy De Laganes. I'm the newly superintendent for city traffic safety. I started there in August. I am retired TxDOT, 25 years TxDOT traffic operations. I got a short little presentation put together for this meeting, just to show you what's going on downtown. This is the Central Business District presentation. Right now, currently, we have a total of 56 signals in the downtown area. Preliminary prospects are 15 of these intersections that we might look at trying to eliminate and making them stops because of the problems we're having with downtown of upkeep. Reference that I'll show you in the next map. This is a reference. Let me click on that. The signals that are in these square areas in here are, eventually, there are one-way streets. They have signals on them right now. We need to do what's called some kind of traffic study, and we need to look at location, utilities and all that. These signals might be able to remove and put stop signs, so it eliminates some of the congestion, because there's very little traffic in this area. So it might help out with downtown. Let me go with this here.
You think we can get the screens to work? I'm sorry.
Yes,
Oh, okay.
please, Rasmus.
Oh, you don't have them up there? I'm sorry.
No, we don't.
I thought they were all working.
Yeah, Rasmus.
Go ahead and continue, we'll catch up to you.
Okay.
Press the button on the right under, underneath the counter.
Yeah, there we go. You see, it's a trick. You're supposed to hit the switch here.
the right switch.
Oh,
Right switch.
which one, the A?
The one on the right, yeah.
There you go.
Thank you.
So good, that's the same area.
That
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, that we were looking at.
The signals that we are looking at, if it does meet the
control
warrants to remove, they will have to be converted to all-way stop because it is a controlled intersection. We need to look at the sight distances of the intersections, because if you come up and you have it blocked, there's no way they can see around the building to be able to make it pass through the intersection without having an accident. So
Yeah.
we need to look at sight distances, regulating these intersections that have signals on it. They would be converted to all-way stops. Installation determines on, like I said, basis of visibility around corners and other factors here. Let's go next one.
And what does the triangle mean?
The triangles, you talking about this one right here?
Yeah, there's circles and then circles.
That circle is the transit center. We had some other signals that were in that area, but we're gonna have to reevaluate that because those signals might need to stay there because it's around the transit center for the buses and stuff.
Yeah, the circle with a red triangle, what does that mean? You have several of them, like you have one at
Well,
Matamoros.
these here are where the green light's at, and these red lights, okay, those are the noise where they had communication points at. To the,
Like
when they put
enclosures?
when they had put downtown that communication system back in 2012, those were the communication points that went back to the Hamilton Tower.
Oh,
That's why they're marked on there,
Wireless.
those triangles.
Does
That
that
was
mean
the-
there's a physical enclosure
No,
located?
no, it's just meaning where the communication system was
Okay.
for the intersection.
I think so.
Okay. So like I said, in these areas here, there's a total of 15 intersections that possibly can be removed to make, and to stop, so get rid of some of the signals in that area. See, removal and replacement costs. New signals, an estimate for new signal cost is about 200 grand to put a brand new signal. But in the downtown area, you're gonna have to look at removal of the old ones, so this cost will increase. That cost there is just from plain ground where there's no signal to put in a brand new signal. But you gotta take into consideration the removal of the old one, which is not in that cost.
Jesus,
The average,
so expensive.
yeah.
200,000.
Yeah, removal of signals, estimate 5,000, maybe 10,000, depending on the foundations, conduits, stuff like that. The Central District traffic signals were constructed back in the 1970s. A lot of the infrastructure is already past its engineered lifespan. A normal signal lifespan is engineered between 15 to 30 years. And every 30 years, you should be looking at upgrading the signals to changes, LEDs, poles, whatever, because that's what the national life expectancy of a signal. So your traffic signals require an annual maintenance of $2,500 per intersection. That's including maintenance, that's including utilities, changing out lights whenever they go bad, whatever. That's just an annual national standard for each signal. Here are some things that we've come across when we had to go in there and do utilities. These are old flex metal conduits underneath the ground for traffic signal wiring, which is no longer spec. It's now supposed to be PVC now. This was Flores in Houston, where they were taking care of the drainage and water line there. And our signal lines had to be rerouted while they tore up the roadway. Here at Hidalgo and Juarez gives you an example of what intersection that had a traffic signal. Now it's a two-way stop. I think the signal got hit and we could not replace the pole, so it ended up being reverted to a two-way stop because it just couldn't be reinstalled because we didn't have the right-of-way to do new foundations because of all the underground utilities there. Especially with AEP being underground, you gotta work around that to be able to find a space to be able to put foundations and stuff. Here's some of the stuff that we've had to do where there wasn't enough conduit runs. We've had to tap into the side of the cabinets to bring in runs to be able to add stuff to it. You see how the conduits here going into the cabinet. Also, this here had a smaller cabinet on it, and now we had to go with a bigger cabinet, and you see, aesthetically, it doesn't look good, but it does the job. But we need to, if you guys wanna, it would take quite a bit more money to make the appearance look nice. So it's not, I guess we'd say, eyesore when people walk through it. You see these bases right here? These are old transformer-based traffic signal poles. They're not even used anymore. They don't even make them anymore. That's how old these poles are. The other information, in 2012, traffic signal upgrades, 1.75 million was the federal earmark for the intelligent transportation system. That was used for cabinets and controllers and communication system. That was the Cisco mesh radios they installed downtown. Capital improvement projects we got for downtown is 500,000 K for upgrades of signals in the downtown area, including poles, cabinets, controllers, conduits, cables, etc. I know some people are looking at ornamental poles to be used as a standard for downtown. We are waiting on hearing from, I guess, a standard from council or from whoever is going to come up with that. Because right now in the industry with signal poles, they don't make ornamental traffic signal poles. It'd be something from the ground up that if you guys want to use it, ornamental poles, they need to, it would need to be designed. Citywide traffic signal communication upgrade, we got 500,000 for that. That is to upgrade the entire city, or so that we can communicate to every signal, so that we're not having to send a guy out to the intersection when we get a call. We actually can see what's going on and see what we can do to get out there to fix it and get it going faster. So we're not taking a guess that someone's calling us saying, this is the problem, and when we get out there, it's a different problem. We actually can see it before we get out there. Currently updating the signal communications, okay. The system that's there is obsolete now, back in 2012. Part of that 500,000 is to upgrade the downtown communication also. That's about what we have for you guys for this meeting.
All right, a couple of questions. So 500,000 for the entire city
That is for communication.
for communications?
Okay, that's a capital gain communication money. But that, we have over 250 signals that we're trying to communicate to.
Remotely, is that what you mean? That
Be
you
able to
can-
talk to them directly to the intersection, yes.
Do they, okay, gotcha.
So how much is set aside for downtown? Have you,
Well, that 250, like I said, that's for the whole, that 500,000 is for the whole city of Laredo. That includes downtown,
that's enough for 2.5
Mines
lights
Road,
downtown?
Loop 20, 359, 83. That's what was marked for that.
Okay.
But that's just for the communication component.
That one's just communication, that's
And
500,000.
what is the estimated cost to,
That right now, I
like,
am.
are you way over? You're gonna have lots of money?
Well,
for
no,
that?
it's just got started, and we're working on trying to work at a corridor, one corridor at a time. Some corridors don't have any communication, so we're having to go and install cabling, radios, whatever it takes to get it communicating back to the office. Some of them have the cabling, we're just upgrading the equipment, so it's better. It's different at each
Is that the
intersection.
issue downtown? Because so the issue downtown is there's already the cabling and everything.
Well, that, I don't know what's down there. Like I said, I've only been here since August. I'm trying to get the feel of what's there, what needs to be done to get it improved.
Do you have the funding to remove the traffic signals that you marked up on your plan?
That I need to get back with Robert Pena with. I'm not familiar with the budget areas.
How much time do we have to provide input on your plan before you start mobilizing that plan? How much time?
Well, that, we would first need to do the traffic study.
Okay.
Yeah, that was for
Just sit down. You're saying the whole city.
the communication. Okay.
500,000 for downtown?
Well, that's what he's saying. Hang on, let me
Okay.
see here. I remember I made notes here. That's what he's saying. Let's see. For downtown, well, yeah, there's for capital gain downtown, there's 500,000 just for downtown. But the communication is 500,000 for the entire city. For the communication, capital. That's a different one.
Has city council seen this presentation yet, or?
No, this
okay.
is put together today.
Okay, great. Okay, gives us an opportunity to give some feedback.
So,
Mr.
Mr.
Mayor.
Chairman, what happened once we funded this one, Robert came to me, Robert says, look, I can only do 2 signals, but a lot of these signals are no longer needed. And so that's why I told him, let's come up with a plan. If we don't need it, we don't need to invest 250,000 each signal, and maybe we can. So that's why I recommended to present to you guys and get your input, and then we'll present to council. And so that money can go further. Otherwise, we'll just do 2 signals, that's it. You don't have any more money.
Yeah.
If
Well-
you go back to the map, and you see the ones there was a total of like 15 that we could probably eliminate. And that money can go somewhere else instead of trying to upgrade those signals. Like I said, a lot of those signals are built in the 70s.
But what is the criteria for choosing to eliminate a signal?
There has to be done a traffic study on it, depending on traffic counts, amount of people going through there, accidents. There's several warrants that it would have to meet to be able to be removed. Criteria to be able to be, eligible to be removed. I'm not exactly sure all the points, but there's a deal on it.
Would the traffic study be done in-house or contracted?
That I don't know. We can do some of the counts in-house, but I don't know if Robert was planning to have that done out of house.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We usually hire consultant to do the traffic impact. And we provide the data, but we hire.
So, I mean, this isn't gonna happen in the next 90 days, it sounds.
No.
It's
Okay.
gonna take some time
All right.
to figure out which ones are good, which ones we need to keep, which ones we can eliminate.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the presentation. Any other comments or questions for Mr. Deleganes? Can you share that with us,
Yes.
your PowerPoint?
Sure. I'll get my office to send it to an email. Are you going to copy off this?
I think this kind of, for us, I think it means another walking tour, just to get a good sense of what's going on, right? All right, if there aren't any other comments on this item, we will move ahead to action item 7, update, presentation and discussion with possible action related to the TERS number 1, ongoing improvement design work and elements as may be required or requested by the design team. You all have an update, Rick? Or are we still in the same design?
Rick Solis with Able City. Yes, we have a small update. We have made some adjustments. It's not too different. We are kind of in a little bit of a holding pattern while we wait on I always want to call it community engagement, but it's
Public engagement.
public awareness, yes, public engagement. So over the last month, we were working on one, continuing the item for the grant, the diagram for Salinas Street, which I think we did submit for, so that we.
Yeah. Thank you both, all the entire team that helped, especially you with leading that effort. We were able to, in the write-up, include utility relocation as a potential. So for Ms. Alexander, that got included in the write-up. We will hear back hopefully from the MPO. I think the latest is February, but I want to thank you for rushing that work in the middle of a weekend and all that. Thank you, Rick.
So we worked on that. I know that we had some meetings with KCI, and I don't know, Edward, if you want to kind of just talk about some of the little changes that we made, and we'll have your plans on here.
So Edward Ochoa with KCI. So in the last month, we've made some kind of fine tuning changes, kind of like Rick said. We're a little bit on a holding pattern until we get through the public involvement and get the feedback from them. But for now, we've kind of fine tuned a couple of things kind of within the design team, tossed around some ideas. So what you see there is Zaragoza. And let me get to zooming in on it. So that's Zaragoza Convent intersection that you see there. And what we've done, I guess, from the last time is we did some fine tuning up in this split level area. Most notably, we've adjusted the stairs to kind of come in at an angle like that. We're looking at removing, this is a 1-foot barrier wall that kind of separates two elevations. As we work with the property owner, we can get access to the property, we can get a more exact elevation, and I'm pretty confident we can remove this if there's some adjustments done to the inside of the building. So we've already looked at that already. And then this is what you see here is the proposed bench area. And we've kind of changed up what we've got in between the bench. So there was a discussion about maybe putting some umbrellas. So we've kind of isolated some of that space there to be, I mean, it could be just about anything. Umbrellas, we had some trees at one time, or some planters in some of the previous presentations, so we're kind of tossing around different ideas like that. What we've done is, we're just worked on in maximizing the walkable space as much as possible. And so what we've done here is we were able to get a 10-foot, we're getting it down to a 10-foot lane now, which would give us about 5 feet of walkable space here, 5 to 6 feet, and then up in the top, some 4-foot space there. So that was some of the little fine tuning that we did. I mean, it might look the same to you, but just 1-foot adjustments here and there. And then this is the continuing section. So this is the Salinas side of Zaragoza, of that intersection. And again, kind of the same thing there. We tried to help maximize some of the walking space that we had here. This section is still kind of split level. In this particular section, you can see we still kind of note the planters. They kind of look the same as the umbrellas, right? So it's just kind of designating a space to do something. So,
Do the planters require railings, or or just a 18-foot planter, or 18-foot, 18-inch planter?
yeah, so the planter will be raised on the upper level side. So from the upper level side, it might stick up maybe 12 to 18 inches, and then the planter will be on top of that. And then on the lower level side, it'll be a bench. And so as you sit in the bench, there'll be a break every so often in the bench, which would be kind of a planter. And so as we get into the final design, you're working with the architect, we'll come up with exactly what that would look like, right?
Mm-hmm.
But more from our perspective at this level of the game, kind of a 30% schematic discussion. It's just kind of isolating that space and making sure that we can make that work from grading perspectives, right?
We also showed that connection across the street, that ramp there, that's new.
Oh, here, yeah.
Right.
So we did make some improvements to having some pedestrian crossings through here. We did discuss adding on this is the side of the outlet shops.
Right.
So currently on the outlet shop sides, you have the bump outs that they've done. We call them bump outs for the transformers and different things. As you get closer to the Salinas intersection, it's just kind of like a parking lane. We drove through it before the meeting, and people just park there. So the idea there was maybe use some of that space at the end of the Salinas Street, at the end of the Zaragoza Street before you get to Salinas, and incorporate a ramp and maybe some trees.
That's good.
So we're kind of designating that in there.
Also explain the loading and unloading problem that's causing these intersections, and what we might be looking at.
Yeah, so what we did spend some time on this month and working with Able City and the design team was looking at this concept of, so some of the issues that we're finding is at these intersections, if we bump out the intersections, which when we say bump out, it's bringing the curbs closer together and kind of narrowing the street portion of it. We started looking at doing that, which would help, enhance some of the pedestrian movement. But at all of these intersections, if we allow for vehicles to turn at every single intersection, more importantly, we know that we've got to account for like a FedEx truck or UPS truck or a post office, postal truck or whatever. Those delivery trucks, and also deliveries to the businesses and stuff, when you account for that size of vehicle, making that turn, they take up more space than a regular passenger vehicle. So we've been running a lot of these analyses at the different intersections, and we come to find out that it wouldn't lend itself to letting all those trucks work at every single intersection. So we've talked about maybe a concept that we could present where the delivery vehicles maybe enter on Santa Ursula, coming southbound. And so they would come southbound on Santa Ursula, and whatever street they're coming in on, they would come in on, let's say Iturbide. So they would turn on Iturbide, And instead of allowing them to turn on San Bernardo and all the other streets, give them the east-west streets, let's call them, give them on the east-west streets room to load and unload, and then they can access the side streets half-block. And so if we give them more room on the east-west streets to load and unload deliveries, that would allow us on these side streets, like on the north-south streets like Salinas, Convent, of course, is a kind of a main street, that's a little bit different, but Flores and San Agustin, San Bernardo, give us a little bit more room to kind of enhance the pedestrian movement on those streets. So for example, a loading truck would come in on Santa Ursula and go westbound, because Iturbide is westbound, one way. They would go westbound, stop wherever they need to stop to make their delivery. Once they're done with delivery, instead of turning on San Bernardo, they could keep going maybe down to Convent, which is already a wider street. Or maybe keep going down to Santa Maria, which is a little bit more of a wider street. And those streets already have enough space for them to make the turn.
Can they turn on the other streets if they needed to, or if they wanted to?
That's kind of the idea, is that you would kind of preclude them from turning on some of those other streets by giving them their loading and unloading zones on the east-west streets, which they probably currently do right now, but you do find on some of the north-southbound streets that there is some loading zones. And a lot of the north-southbound streets from the kind of the current right-of-way situation, they tend to be a lot narrower than the east-west streets, right? So the Houstons and the Victorias and the Iturbides are wider versus the north-southbound streets if you kind of look at it. Not all of them, but in a lot of cases they are. So we're just looking at some other concepts of how maybe we can make things work. in
Yeah,
that
I mean,
aspect.
that's an important thing to analyze, where you're essentially removing drop-off from the north-south. For a tenant, that can be problematic.
Correct.
So, Edward, on the Zaragoza that you have up, you have a 10-foot lane. What is the lane presently on the outlet side?
So on the outlet side, it's presently 11 feet. So it's right in that width. The 10-foot lane is, so getting down to a 10-foot lane, the 10-foot lane is kind of the recommendation that you find in the current comprehensive plan for main streets. They show a 10-foot lane with a 7-foot parking space. Here we're doing 10-foot lanes with 8-foot parking spaces. So it falls within the guidelines of the current City of Laredo comprehensive plan.
You
But
guys,
as a reference,
you feel comfortable with it, both of you?
it's narrow. It's narrow. But again, in a lot of places in the current comprehensive plan, the 10-foot width is what you see as a common theme on many streets. So, it's narrow, but, again, that's where getting feedback, at this point in the game, we would certainly encourage and see what everybody thinks about it. A 10-foot wide, if I'm not mistaken, is the width of the lanes on Delmar Boulevard, as you get right in front of like Mary Help. Currently, I think all of those lanes are 10 feet wide. So that's about the sense that you have,
But you said in front of the back of the outlet mall, on Zaragoza, that's an 11-foot?
They're currently 11-foot lanes.
So that's a tight lane, but that would give us a perspective if we wanted to go out there and drive,
Correct.
just to see.
It feels tight at 11.
1 foot.
Feels tight at 11. What I think is a little bit different, just personally, is there at the outlet shops, you've got the railing on the 11-foot side, you've got the railing that's right up on you. So you have that sense of feeling something that's right there versus in our case, we're not putting railing on the sidewalk. We're leaving that sidewalk space, so it might have a little
That's
more
right.
of a different sense. But those are some of the different design aspects that we're kind of looking at and playing with and cross-checking and designs and so on. So, yeah.
Go ahead, Edward.
Any other questions on the Zaragoza?
I did have a question,
Yes, ma'am.
on Zaragoza and Convent. At the last meeting, and I don't know if anybody's gotten the answer to this question, especially when we're talking about that unloading, the loading zones could be in just certain particular areas. But so this street's gonna get narrower, and I'm just curious about what the agreement is between the city and these taxis that are here and connected to where the loading and unloading is gonna take place.
I think the agreement you were talking about was, there might have been a discussion about a written agreement with the taxi
I don't know what the,
association, yeah.
I think the loading, at the last meeting, someone said that the loading is down, like, more west, down Zaragoza, right? And that the taxis have
Oh,
this space.
so from an operational standpoint, what I've observed is the taxis do tend to park on the convent side of the intersection of the street, right? So they.
Right, they're on the south side,
Yeah, they're on the south side of the street, but they kind of,
yeah, closer to Convent.
they start the line over there and then they stack up going east to west. So, usually you'll see 3 or 4 taxis kind of waiting through there sometimes. And when you see the taxis waiting through there, then I think that's when the loading guy will come in and say, oh, I can't go there because there's taxis, waiting. So the loading guys tend to load on the west side of the street. Is that what you were kind of talking about?
Well, just because right now, that it kind of works because there's room. But with the extension of the sidewalk, that's gonna narrow the
It
street
would
part.
just narrow the street part of where they drive. Yeah, the room is, the person that's loading, we're still giving them the same amount of room that they occupy right now, which is about 8 feet. And for comparative purposes, in front or the backside of the outlets, like you were talking about, the drop-off lanes or the loading lanes that are there, those are 8 feet wide. We've measured those. So there was a FedEx truck today parked there and he was unloading. They have 8 feet.
So looking at this example here, where if someone's gonna load or unload on Zaragoza Street, where will they park?
So if a delivery truck is gonna unload, he would just drive into this spot and park anywhere that he finds an open space in here.
Oh, so that taxi loading zone is gonna go all the way to Salinas?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. It starts on the convent side and goes all the way to Salinas, and we don't have a designated bump out on this spot. It's open for them they can almost even just drive in and just drive on that, like you would have a lane to drop off.
I have a question on Convent. Are we dieting to one lane as we leave the bridge? Is it currently one lane coming off the bridge facility, coming up?
Currently, it's 2 lanes
Are we-
coming off the bridge, and then you've got the bicycle lane that's 5 feet.
Are we keeping those 2 lanes?
Right at the intersection itself, we've kind of narrowed it down to where about 1 lane could come through. But immediately it opens up into 2 lanes. So this bump out here, this coming back to the existing curb width, kind of lets it to where the 2 lanes would split right up in here.
I mean,
So-
I'm not, you guys are the experts, but that seems like it could be problematic shooting off from that light.
In what I've seen operationally, and again, this is kind of getting into the discussion with, some of the different city departments on that, but what we've seen operationally is coming from that south end, there's usually only 1 car there. There's not 2 cars stacked up. Certainly, once you get to that north side of that intersection, you need those 2 lanes, because that's where the lanes start to stack up, and then you've got all the lights kind of going north on Convent and, the traffic coming off of the bridge. But operationally on this southern side, you've got the cars that come out of the bridge, they kind of come like this at an angle.
So it could work if the striping sends them all to 1 lane before they stack on the light, right?
I think so. I think it can work getting them on the north side of Convent, getting them through there. You get 1 car through there, but immediately that one car, since they're coming from the south, you only have one car coming from the south at a
Like two
time.
are shooting off from the light, you know, right?
They would, as soon as they would cross through the intersection, it opens up into the two lanes and they can start to split and stack, right? Or, you know, the volume of traffic would allow them to go. So that was the concept that we had here, where we've kind of brought in a bump out here, which would kind of help the pedestrian traffic crossing there.
So Edward, are you gonna run it through the traffic department in between now and the public awareness event, or are you, what's the plan?
We've visited already with the traffic department, just verbally. I sat with Mr. Peña and showed him some of the stuff that we had back then. He hadn't seen this one where we narrowed it down a little bit. But yes, the idea is to visit with the traffic and engineering department. I don't know if there'll be a lot of time between now and the community involvement or public involvement portion, but absolutely, we're gonna get input from them in the process.
What's the community involvement? January, we
January,
moved it,
the
right?
17th and 18th is the date.
Yeah,
Okay,
with
I just
that-
wanna make sure you get feedback from them and
Correct.
kind of work through whatever issues.
Yeah, a lot of these in this, call it the schematic phase of what we're working on, there's just almost constant design changes that we're doing and concepts and ideas that we're looking at running through. So there are gonna be several meetings that we're gonna have with different departments. Being that we moved it to mid-January, it might be an opportunity to meet with Mr. Peña in the traffic department, and of course, Mr. Chavez at engineering.
Okay.
But in a lot of these intersections, you know, we need to get everybody's feedback, all the different departments.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I just have a question. I mean, I've seen how they deliver in the downtown area. For example, UPS, they'll park and they'll dolly everything. They just stay in one place and they move. Would it be something to look for a location that maybe could be the spot for the FedEx and the UPS trucks? Miss Tina? Maybe there's a piece of property or something that we have downtown that would allow for parking specifically for FedEx and UPS and whoever to park and then dolly from there so that they're not taking up the street space? Well, I mean, I know we have some,
The Zaragoza Salinas corner. That's the one we've been looking at. I don't mean to press on it, but that's one option.
But it's not city property.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, right, but it's not currently city property yet.
I just think that if we're taking away from the pedestrian walking because we have to accommodate for the truck, you know, maybe if we accommodate the trucks somewhere, we could continue with our design and not have to adjust because we have, I know we have trash also to get picked up and stuff like that, but,
Yeah.
maybe that would be something.
But I think if we go a step further from where they're taking us to dedicate certain streets for unloading, I mean, we can just one further step and designate a loading area,
Yeah.
right?
Something like that to help
That's,
us.
Certainly, that would be,
But
you know,
one loading area is not gonna be, is not sufficient because downtown is big. You know, there's.
well, we can come up with multiple
Oh,
loading
yeah, yeah, yeah.
spaces.
yeah, I mean, it'd have to be like a regional loading
Yeah,
area
yeah.
or, you know, every other
Where it
block.
makes sense, where you go in a U, and then on the other block, you come back in a U.
Right.
I don't know,
Yeah.
so
So, I mean, certainly it's a conceptual idea that we've tossed around amongst the design team that we think is worth presenting to city staff and in discussion.
We can put it there.
if, you know, if I'm a tenant and I'm used to unloading in front of my store, and then you take that possibility away, but at least I know around the corner, there's a designated loading zone, I think I'd be okay. But if it's no designated and good luck getting it,
Correct.
then that could be a problem for the tenant.
So there are, in driving downtown today, there are certain streets that don't have designated loading zones, so they tend to just find a place to park, right? In front of Zaragoza, on the south side of Zaragoza, on this particular block, it's been kind of designated, not officially like with,
But it's
you
treated
know,
that way.
labels on the streets, but because it's the taxis, people respect that and don't park there, and they actually have a guy that'll run you away if you're parking there. But so the loading vehicles will load there. And so it's just kind of, operationally, I think everybody has that mutual agreement, right?
People are practical.
Correct. So if you maybe apply that to some of the other blocks and give them a more designated loading space, then it could
We come up
work.
with that logic as you guys can.
Yeah, I think we can probably maybe even for the next meeting, put together a little master plan that shows this is the way we're thinking the traffic should route, and these would be the designated loading zones, and we can easily do a little diagram and say, this is walking distance within an eighth of a mile or whatever, and
Rick,
figure
if
out
you
from
could add to that, to denote the parking kiosk for the metering,
Yeah, we can do that too.
as with some logic over how you would place them in our project area.
You're saying that the kiosks that we had brought up at the last meeting versus the parking
Yes.
meters,
I
right?
don't know if we're gonna have funding for it, but at least demonstrate that logic of where we would place it and how many would we carry off of one kiosk.
Okay.
Now, we'll refer back to the other parking master plan that was done, and, because I'm not sure if they located, but we'll take a look
They
at that
did.
as well. Okay.
So would you like for me to go through some of the other blocks?
For me, I would like for you to do that, and I'm looking at the drivable space of that lane, right? So when you get to Iturbide, I'm curious about that spacing.
Okay.
Because I like the way Iturbide feels, the prior work, I like how that feels. And I know you explained that has a smaller parking lane.
Correct. It's a little bit wider on the driving lane, but a little bit smaller on the parking lane. So when the cars park, you still have the same space per se. Any other questions on this section of Zaragoza?
If anybody wants to comment from the audience, you're welcome to. This is the opportunity for you all that you want to offer some feedback.
This is the Zaragoza block between Flores and Convent, and on this one, from our last meeting, there weren't any changes. This is the block where we've really just kind of added some trees, but no, this is the block that's a walkway already, it's closed
Yeah.
off, so.
Those are some of our renderings.
Those are some of your renderings, okay. I'll hand it over to Rick, he can explain the renderings.
Yeah.
Appreciate the European cars.
These renderings haven't been updated, so they don't quite reflect, we just kind of kept them in there to show you what we had been looking at before. Essentially, I think there was a post that we hadn't accounted for, so we put the post in, this post right here. This is Iturbide?
Yeah.
Okay,
I
go ahead.
can get through.
Yeah.
So what you see here, let me zoom in a little bit. This is Santa Úrsula and Iturbide, so the east side of Iturbide. What we've done here, different from the last meeting, was I think we already had this drop-off lane at the last meeting, so we still have that put there. But what we've done differently here is we kind of put this kind of this bullet nose tip here, and we've pushed out we pushed a bump out this way on the Santa Úrsula side. And what this will do is, as vehicles are coming this way, it kind of, helps push the vehicles or allows them to kind of go down Iturbide this way. And then you still have another lane to keep going south. Currently, we drove it a few times today. When you come off of the highway and you go on Santa Úrsula, people tend to congregate into one lane. It's wide enough probably for two, side by side, but there's no striping, so people tend to congregate in one lane. And so that's kind of the idea that we have here, is they'll congregate in one lane, and if you're gonna turn, you'll come and turn this way, and as you're turning and making this maneuver, somebody can keep going straight.
It'll slow them down too, which is not
It'll
bad.
slow them down. Really, the general concept on a lot of these bump outs is, narrowing some of these intersections certainly help bring pedestrian traffic through it, but it also helps slow down the traffic, the vehicular traffic through
That looks
the
great.
intersection.
one little design detail that is not on here
Who is
because
she?
we still have to measure.
Ms. Frank, for the record.
Indiana Frank, for the record, Able City. There's while there's a pole here with light, with the electrical wires and all of that, and we need to measure certain dimensions, but this would be a good location right in here to put that small pole with that, maybe that round digital sign that tells you what's going on, so it's closer to the street and people can see what's going on downtown. I mean, it would be the none of the places. So it makes a nice little area for that. If
Yes,
we can make it happen.
another accent, yes.
The property that's on the south end is a parking lot, correct?
Yes, this is the
So-
city parking lot.
I hope that with this very attractive pedestrian opportunity with crosswalks and signs and all this stuff, I hope that this parking lot is open at night. Is it open at night
It is
now?
currently, yes.
Yeah.
I think it is, yeah.
And then there's a parking lot also on the north side of the street,
Which is not open.
which is not
That's-
open.
That's private. That's a private parking lot.
So maybe when the business district is up and running, maybe there can enter into an agreement, because I can see all of this pedestrian cost being useful if those parking lots were available for people to park and then walk. But otherwise, I think, it's over.
So the only thing with that is that right now, there is sort of a pseudo driveway that someone just put in.
You have a tree there now.
What's
You
that?
have a tree now there.
Yeah, exactly. So if the concept is to possibly use that in the future, because right now we're sort of saying it doesn't belong to us, so we're not using it. We would just have to think about, maybe we don't have any parallel parking, or maybe we run this further down, or we just need to consider it, because right now we're getting rid of that driveway.
Down the street,
Is it down the street?
It's down, because this is the house that's on the corner.
No, it's right there. It's,
There is a gate right here.
Yep.
That's been closed forever, but there's a gate there, and it's kind of like a driveway cutout. And I think there's another one somewhere on this side, if I'm not mistaken. And
I
then you
don't
do-
think it's a bad idea to have the entrance on the other side, to be honest with you, after I see this. Just because we're gonna punch out here, the city's parking lot, you don't show it, but are you closing it off, or?
No, the driveway's right here.
Oh, okay,
That's this.
yeah, so.
This is the, this is the exit, right?
Yeah.
The entrance
Yes.
is over here.
Right.
So I don't think having the entrance over there and exit would be a problem
And
on the
people,
other street.
we'll create something they can walk out of.
A pedestrian gate, yeah.
Kind of like there is right now.
Yeah, so we could get a pedestrian gate put there, or the owner.
I really like the width here, 12 feet, that's great, that you were able to fit that.
Yeah, in this particular spot, we're needing to get 12 feet to allow for some of this turn, and we just kind of lined up some things in there. So this particular block, we can have the 12 and the 8. So again, this is a Santa Ursula side with kind of this bullet nose here. And as Ms. Frank said, you know, there's looking at an opportunity of putting a message board sign or changeable message sign or something right in this spot. There is an overhead power pole here that may potentially be in the way, and that's what we're looking at. And so we've got another set of plans that we've put together, kind of already pointing out some of those utility poles and things that are in the way on our project, so.
I
Yes,
have
ma'am.
another question. Do you know how many parking spaces are in this block right now, on the street?
Currently, right now, the street, I think right now, the street, everybody's parking on the south side of the street,
And I
right?
want to say there's only like 3 or 4 spots on the south side, because most of it is driveway and, you know, there's a lot of driveways on that south side. Like the corner property, that is pretty much one big driveway, so nobody parks there.
Yeah, you get, I want to say right now, we saw probably about 3 or 4, right in front between the ghost house and then the house next to that. They tend to get about 3 or 4 parking spots in there. I mean, you could park over on this other side at the intersection, but I don't see a lot of people
I
doing
think
so.
it's striped, no, that you can't.
It might be striped, yeah, maybe
That's
there
where I
is
park
no
when
parking.
we're going to walk.
So,
That's what you park for.
so is this, the proposal is 0 parking spaces on the south side?
Yes.
Yes, yeah, so it would be to have the parking spaces on the north side.
But I see it says proposed, and depending on that drive, legal or illegal,
This proposed parallel parking.
Yeah, but I think on that, we should have about 8 spaces on the north side.
What do you mean illegal?
And
Yeah, well,
this is in consultation with the property owners?
absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Once we get into, again, going to that community input, property owner input, you know, certainly whatever feedback we get from them may say the other way. But.
so the feedback there is that these existing properties that are actually open and operating would like to preserve some of the parking on the south side. I'm not sure if that can happen. Or, because I see it says proposed parallel parking, so that might go away. But my concern is that there might potentially be no parking on this street. And I'm not sure, how many need to be there, but at least maybe a couple.
So from a design perspective of what we're doing, you would only be able to get parking on one side,
Or the other.
one or the other. So it's either all on the north side or all on the south side.
Oh, because of how it meets up to that next.
Correct. Yeah, so if we try to put some on the north and some on the south, then you're gonna have a middle lane that's
I
doing
remember
this.
you all recommended the
Chicane
north side
type.
because of how it meets up to over there where,
So
after San Bernardo.
yes, we did run an iteration a few meetings ago where we showed it on the north side. And what happens on the next block, well, I might be able to show it here. What happens on this next block of Iturbide is if you're over here on the north side, if you're driving through here, right, and the parking spaces are here, if you're driving through here, then you're gonna be coming through the intersection kind of in this,
Diagonal. yeah.
kind of a little S curve. It would.
Just
be a
to
little bit-
clarify, when it says proposed, it's just the language they put in the drawing, it is the actual.
Yes, is that, there's
Yeah,
parking there, yes.
correct. There is parking there. When we say propose, it's just proposed in the sense of with all the widening, we just wanted to
Right.
designate this is where it would end up being
So
with all of the things that we're doing.
I just wanted to add, this intersection is with the proposed east-west drop-off zones, so that the big
Box
vehicles
trucks.
don't turn to the north. And you can see how nice and symmetrical and regular that intersection is. And that's what we're trying to get to at as many as we can.
Yeah.
Because if we don't do it that way, or at least in some of the areas.
Correct. So as Ms. Frank is saying, this design kind of already takes into account what things would look like if we had an east-west movement. And so San Bernardo at this intersection travels northbound one way.
Right.
So if a delivery truck were to be right here and needed to turn here, he would drive over these two ADA ramps. So we would end up losing essentially this bump out here at this corner where my hand is. Just because of the sheer maneuver of the vehicle, right? We're using, just so everybody knows, we're using a program that's built into our AutoCAD design program that runs vehicle analysis using the AASHTO vehicles.
So what box truck length did you use?
So this particular vehicle that we're using is called an SU. AASHTO calls it the SU. It's a single unit. I believe the length of the truck is 30 feet long.
Like a FedEx truck or something like that.
Correct.
Box truck.
Yeah.
So no way a semi's gonna make it through here.
Oh,
They
no.
shouldn't even be here anyway.
Yeah.
Semis shouldn't be through here. The El Metro bus routes don't come, if I'm not mistaken, we checked it, but I don't think any of them come south of the transit center. So you don't have El Metro driving through here, so there's no buses that would be going through here.
You also make them part of your due diligence, right? El Metro, visit with them.
We can visit with them. We weren't really expecting to, we were pretty sure that they.
Just in case, we don't want to get crossed on routes.
Sure. We can do that.
Mr. Chairman,
Mia?
if I may, you might want to also check back with fire. So the fire engine, we got big engines, and if they need to get in, they can.
Yeah,
So,
we'll go ahead and look at that.
yeah, sit
to
down
see
with the
kind
fire
of-
marshal and just show him, get the
Okay.
blessing.
That is one of the departments,
Get it in
Point,
writing.
good point. Doing all this stuff.
In writing, someone.
that is one of the departments, Mr. Mia, that we do plan on visiting with, the fire department.
You move forward, Edward, but
Yes, sir. So this was the first block of Iturbide.
That was the mic.
Okay. This is the second block of Iturbide, so this is from San Bernardo to San Agustin. This is the block in front of the J.C. Twist building. So this block is much wider. This block, currently, the pavement, people park on both sides. You have parking meters on both sides. This block does lend itself to parking on both sides.
looks really good.
From the current right-of-way width that's there. The right-of-way is much wider in this section. So because of that, we've kept parking on both sides and have still been able to widen the sidewalk some. Some of the limited sidewalk space is on the north side, so most of the bump out or most of the offset is on the north side.
Are these existing trees?
No, ma'am, no. All of these are brand-new trees that we're showing. So as you can see, we've got just different sections where you can park. We've got different, trees kind of staggered through there. And, there's a driveway to the, right in front of Siete Banderas building. There's a driveway, so we've got one there. And then just after the J.C. Twist, there's a driveway right here. This is the driveway into the diocese parking lot, the big parking lot that's there. So we've kept all of those in there. So that's just the general theme here is you go down the street and you'll have some trees kind of scattered on both sides with parking on both sides.
All right.
And then you get up to the San Agustin intersection right here. We're still currently developing the San Agustin intersection, the design of it. It's posing some interesting grading issues that we're having to look at. So we're really kind of working through there. But the general idea on the San Agustin portion is going to be, if you go out there right now, you'll see that there's a strip of concrete kind of on both sides of you that are kind of the edges of the tree wells on the different spots on both sides. From those little strips of concrete, look like striping, but they're concrete, kind of like a little curve. From concrete to concrete, it's about 11 feet right now, currently. So the general idea is to pretty much stay right at that path and respect that. And just go ahead and kind of regrade all of that. So there's going to be some changes to the slopes and the elevations of the street a little bit to accommodate making the rest of it all pedestrian friendly.
You already said Zaragoza was the hardest, so this can.
Zaragoza has been the hardest. I'll let you know next month how much harder this one is. But this one has some elevation issues. One side is higher than the other, and so we're trying to kind of make
The thing
all
is,
of
we
that
have
work.
inlets right at both sides.
There's
of the street.
inlets, there's inlets on there's three inlets. There's an inlet over here, there's an inlet here, and there's an inlet here. But there is no inlet in front of the House of Whiskey. And it looks like, if you go out there, this looks like there might be a spot where water may stand, So we're wanting to make sure that whatever we do doesn't create that situation,
Cross it
water
over.
standing, yeah.
Just for discussion, I know that the city's working on a parklet ordinance, and these bump outs lend themselves for potentially anybody who applies for a parklet, they can do it outside their facility.
Absolutely.
Should we plumb these with some kind of conduit for that potential if they need to put light or something like that? I hate to see us put in a brand new sidewalk and then they jackhammer it and, but if you just run a conduit in them, because, I think once that happens, you might, especially House of Whiskey, I mean, they're looking to be outside, so.
We haven't worked through the electrical component yet. That's another component that Edward's taking care of. Yes, we're showing trees, but we're gonna be adding lights and some other stuff, so we can run some conduit for that as
What
well.
kind of conduit? Okay.
It's a good idea. Mr. Alvaro, are you saying conduit give them the opportunity to put their own conduit from their property?
No, run conduit, so if they have to pull wire, or let's say they're gonna set up a sitting area or whatever, and they want some lighting, or they want, I don't know, whatever else, they at least have the conduit so they can pull wire through, and then they can set up
Right.
off
So
of that.
you're kind of describing a conduit going from the right of way to their building?
Right.
Correct,
Right, in that direction?
yes. Just to have it there, just in case.
Because anything else would mean the city would be powering a private enterprise.
So, in New York and in other cities, they've left the, and during COVID, they let everybody put out these parklets, which they're not really parklets, they're actually an extension of their business.
Restaurant.
And they're-
Right, that's more-
They're almost all covered and.
Maybe a patio or something like that.
So, but what they found out after because they were considering taking them all off, is they said no, because they're making more money than the parking. So, like these people who are, you're collecting money, obviously, from the meters, right? And so they found out that they can essentially lease these spaces to these people. Not
Do they
lease them,
provide city
license
power?
them and provide the power and do all of that
Oh,
stuff.
that's an option.
The water, the power, all of them.
Yeah, because we have some opportunities with this to make a little bit of money if somebody wants to put a
Right.
patio out there. So we gotta be ready for
This is the
that.
time to think about how to do all of that, so they,
I mean, we need to put power on those trees. We need to light it
for
up.
the trees, they all have
So
power.
we'll have the power. You can just put a plug in there so they can just connect it.
I just want to keep
Yeah.
that open so that we can do it.
All right.
So that's San Agustin, and then, this is again the San Agustin Iturbide, going west, and so you can see a little bit here where that inlet is. Right now, what we're showing is, having these diamond plate covers to allow the runoff, the drainage water to still get into the curb inlets. A lot of these, as we get a little bit more into design, we need to look at whether or not there's a possibility of moving the inlet to another location. And some locations don't lend itself, like on Zaragoza, we've already analyzed that. And if we tried to move the inlet to the new curb line, it falls right on top of a sanitary sewer line. So we're still analyzing some of these. What I'm showing here is what would it look like if we left the inlet alone and just built a diamond plate to allow the drainage water to still make into the inlet. So we're looking at different aspects in our design. So this one is at an angle, is again, just all conceptual ideas that we're looking at now, but can we
Might
put it-
evolve as your drawings get.
They'll evolve as our drawings get through it, and then they'll evolve in the sense of kind of analyzing where the existing pipe is coming into these storm drain inlets, which we're working on getting the rest of that information. And, for example, if the existing pipe comes this way to the center of the street, then it would be very easy to take the existing
Yeah,
inlet,
move it.
demolish it, and just move it down the line of the pipe and set it right in front and just re-pipe it into the existing elevation, right? But if the pipe goes in this direction, then you're moving it and adding junction boxes, and that might add up cost and bringing in other things in the way. So we're analyzing those things still right now, but, so going through the street, again, this is Iturbide. Again, this section is right in front of where most of the bars are right now. It's pretty wide. We have parking kind of on both sides, and we're showing the space on both sides. So as you continue through here, we've got trees. We've got trees mostly on the south side in this location. And so there's some parking spaces in there. You don't have any driveways on this because it's just solid building. And then you're coming up to the next intersection, which is Flores, I think.
Flores?
So we've got kind of a bump out here, with the tree.
Edgar,
Yes, sir.
John Porter Environmental, we have the entire downtown study on the storm drain, so he has all
Yes, sir.
the pipes and everything, so just reach out to him, get the data.
Yeah, I've reached out to them. I should be getting some information this week. I got a response back. So we're looking at getting that information back. And kind of on that line too, we're already at the point where we're probably gonna maybe put some smaller grade inlets in some of the tree well areas so that the trees maybe will accept some of that runoff water. And then any excess runoff water would go down into these smaller inlets. So then we need to look at how we pipe those smaller inlets back into the city system. So we're looking at all different aspects of that. From this is Flores to Convent, east would be the street. So,
Repairs, right?
I'm sorry?
Repairs to existing?
Convent to Flores, yeah. So from Convent to Flores in this direction is just the repairs around the trees in different spots. And lighting, yes, ma'am. So,
No, go ahead. I just wanted you to make sure you touched on how we're going to have to treat those areas that we're taking out to repair around those trees.
these,
Yeah, because that's all stamped concrete, so I don't know what the,
kind of the design perspective.
and you feel like we need to tear it out that much?
There's some tripping hazards.
There's, what we were trying to do was kind of get back to, we didn't go out and survey the exact joints, but the idea is to get back to maybe some of those joints. It's a little bit easier if you can go joint to joint. You don't want to go 10 feet and 10 feet and then you leave a 1 foot piece of concrete with a joint right next to it. So, the general idea would be to get back to a certain joint to take out those tripping hazards. A lot of them are, Ms. Frank, I believe this one in particular is quite a bit.
Yeah, as much
It's
as I
already
don't
put-
like the stamped concrete to her point, I mean, I think we would probably have to match it. Because otherwise it's gonna look completely different to what we're doing elsewhere.
Correct.
But I mean, I think you guys tell us what you think is best. But when we come back to a smooth concrete surface, I don't think it'll look nice.
Yeah. So currently, right now, for example, these tree wells they're concrete all the way up to the tree. There's not much of a tree well space. So maybe we can consider building a bigger tree well so that those roots, as they continue to grow, have a little more room to grow without picking up the sidewalk again in the future.
Took some pictures of Georgetown a few weeks ago. I haven't shared them with you, but they've done that. You guys are tired of getting photos from me.
We do show those on some of the other,
Okay.
on all
They've
the
done
new
exactly
trees that we
what
have
you're
that
thinking.
concept.
Yeah.
I think we need to, we don't show it here on this picture, but we do show kind of a smaller one, but I think maybe in moving forward in the design, we'll make it bigger.
They have a much smaller downtown, but they have really nice landscape beds.
So moving on, this is Flores, and so this second block of Flores. There was some concrete repair that we had noted here. I don't think it was for a tree, but there was a tripping hazard.
There's a tree stump right there that's
Oh,
been there
that's the
for
one with the
years.
tree stump, that's
Like
right. That's
8
the one with the
years.
tree stump. And then, these other ones, same thing. So these two other blocks of Iturbide. So as an example, Mr. Ceballos, you can kind of see here, see how this is not as wide as what we're doing in our design.
Right.
These are a little bit narrower in here, but you have more space here. So a vehicle kind of sticks out
Yeah.
into the curb a little bit, so operationally, it's still about the same. And that's the end of the limits of what we were doing there.
All right.
Hey, perfect timing.
That was my alarm that I've got a few minutes. I still have time.
Can you share some of these drawings with the city's traffic department? Because the footprint that you show here is so big on these old traffic poles that, it'd be nice if there was any way we can reduce that radius of those poles, because they're right at the corner, right where, we have handicap ramps. We're having to adjust handicap ramps I don't know if there's another option out there that would be, not more convenient, but through time, they've gotten smaller, different options of how we can put up our lights.
Yeah, so,
Traffic lights.
as it was kind of stated earlier, some of those bases are older bases
That's right.
that are probably can't get parts for and stuff like that. So, happy to hear that, the traffic department's looking at that, because we're thinking there's at least 2 intersections on our project that we would love to remove and give it more space. But we also do have another, exact same set of plan sheets, but another set of plans that we note some of those power poles, traffic signals, pedestrian poles that we would like to have relocated. And we've kind of set them up on a kind of a different priority level. And so we've got that as a separate note that we're sharing with the design team as we move forward.
It could be good information for traffic.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
So from the board, any additional comments on this item? Questions? If not, I would like to make a motion that we accept the enhancements presented, so that the team can continue with their work and leading on to the public awareness events. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Navarro. Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any against? None, motion passes. The next item is related to these events, public awareness events, update and discussion with possible action related to the planned project-related public awareness events rescheduled to January 17th and 18th. Dr. Udiva and I kind of made that decision to push them, given we'll find out right now, they would have been today. There's Paisano traffic coming our way downtown, so I think that was probably a good observation on her part. Additionally, we needed more time to get notices out and the flyers out. So,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to see if we could just table this item. Now that our design team has some guidance with the last motion we just made, maybe by the next meeting, they can come back with a kind of a semi-proposal of what the presentation would be like, so we can start, or not even, we just have to get going for the meeting, right? I mean,
well.
do we have a meeting before this?
I think
More
it's,
meeting?
do you all need more time to present for the public, or are you ready?
Your next church meeting should be at least on the 10th, so that would actually be right before the meeting. So if you could see the presentation one more time before it's presented on the
Yeah, I mean,
17th,
I think-
if that's what you're,
That's what I mean.
if that's, yeah, that was your concern.
Yeah, I think we're ready. We think we have enough information. It might not be, well, it is 30%, because that's kind of what we wanted to present to them.
That's what we
So-
agreed.
So I think we're ready to meet. So if we need to come back on the 10th, we can show you pretty much what we're gonna show on the 17th and the 18th, that's fine.
I'll leave that up to Mr. Navarro. However,
I'd like to make that motion that we, I think, table this item, don't take action, let us
so
come back on the
not
10th.
set the dates.
Not set the dates, but at least see what they have on the 10th.
Except that if we don't set the dates, then
We
we
need to
can't
provide,
start.
like, 3 weeks'
We
notice.
can't
The
start
10th might be too late for, again,
Okay.
to engage,
Yeah.
the public.
I get
right?
you, I get you.
This way, except that, do you have an idea of what the community engagement will look like?
So we've developed some flyers. We've been working with Main Street on kind of how we're going to disseminate those. We're going to go around to various businesses on those streets and put up posters in windows, but then also deliver flyers to all the tenants up and down
So
the
we
street.
need at least 2 to 3 weeks, right?
Yeah,
Rick, you want to show them? I have them, but, I mean, they have the wrong date, but.
yeah. You can go ahead.
Are you asking like the form itself, when they walk in? What are the-
That's what I'm asking, like,
Oh, like what
where
the
will it be
process of-
held, what time-ish?
Yeah, so we do have, let me see, this is, I'm not used to using this, but, so we do have like, that's just the one for Iturbide, the date, the time, where we're gonna be. It's very simple, but we just really want to get as many people there as possible. We're using this image for,
You would have renderings up And then we'd start with some introduction and then open it up for their.
Yeah, and we're planning on having Edward's drawings, the working drawings, as well as whatever renderings that we've developed. Pretty much what we've used in the past, a lot of that is still valid, but really it's to focus in on the various aspects for both Iturbide and Zaragoza. So it'll be more focused than those previous engagement opportunities.
These are the drafts because they have some spelling issues, but.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was gonna say.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to propose that we shoot for January 18. And the only reason I picked that is to give them an extra 24 hours. So the 17th, go with the 18th.
It was, I think it was the
It's a
17th
Wednesday.
and the 18th.
It's because
Oh,
they're
you
two
want-
days.
Two days.
Two different days, so,
Oh, then.
Different day.
so one
then
would be,
propose to do-
for the
You can't do it in
outlet.
one day? Kidding.
Well, we want to make sure we reach out to the folks in.
I'll make a motion that we go with January 17 and 18, 2023.
Second,
Second by Mr. Mia. Any additional discussion? The team is
What day
ready.
of the? I'm
Tuesday,
sorry.
Wednesday.
Oh,
Tina, please share it on the city's webpage also, so
Yes.
people can.
Yes, as soon as we have the final version, we'll share it.
Been moved and seconded. Any additional discussion, final discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any against? None, motion passes. Thank you very much. Next item is item 9, discussion and possible action to approve KCI Technologies Contract Amendment Number 2, which is in your packet.
Motion to approve 9.
Motion to
Item number
approve 9, we did submit it to Mr. Chavez in engineering, so he has that. Edward has refined his proposal to read 23,700. It's still, the motion still is in fact okay since it's not to exceed. I added this item on the agenda after Councilwoman Cigarroa mentioned to me that she's still seeking additional funds to try to relocate utilities as may be possible. So in talking to Edward, I think we're going to try to prioritize an exhibit or create an exhibit where we create priority of things or utilities that we think we could actually relocate within reasonable cost. Or at least identify them, right? But there needs to be a study to reach that with the various utilities. So Edward, you have your work cut out for you in doing this. I did speak to Mr. Arce with AP, and he says they've done this before downtown for the city. So there is some history in terms of costs that he'll share, and we'll bring that back. Moved and seconded. Any additional discussion or questions? There being none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any against? None, motion passes. The last item, item 10, is discussion and possible action regarding invoices submitted by Able City and KCI Technologies. Those are in your packet. I'll entertain a motion on those two invoices.
I move to approve as presented, Mr. Chairman.
Been moved by Mr. Martinez. Second. Seconded by Mr. Castillo. Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any against? None, motion passes. I just want to recap before we leave for our consulting team, that we asked that there be due diligence meetings with traffic, El Metro Fire Department. In the exhibits, I'll ask KCI to include parking lot, parking kiosk, loading zones, and to notate, label how many parking spaces pre and post, pre-design and post-design. And then also add a call note to the rendering or exhibits for the public awareness that show the potential of power at some sort of in the improvements, whether it be at the tree or a stub out or whatever. Just for you all's notes. Anything else?
I'd like to just wish everyone a happy holidays, a Merry Christmas, and a Happy New Year, since we're not going to meet till next year.
Yes.
Likewise to
Merry
everybody.
Christmas to everybody. Motion to adjourn? Move to adjourn, is there a second?
So move.
Second.
Second by Mr. Mia. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any against? None, motion passes. We're adjourned. It's 6:55. Thank you very much, everyone.